table first, we have President Mike, Secretary Thorpe, our Speaker, Rich Praswara, and 3 Rotarians, Heather Bender, Robert McCoy, and John Hickey. Let me give you a little introduction of Richard Praswara. He is a CEO of Woodlawn Trustees and the Totem Foundation and the Rockford Woodlawn Fund. He was previously Vice President of Resource Development for the Boys and Girls Club of Delaware and Executive Vice President of Operations for Ashley Addiction Treatment. Rich served as the Executive Director of the Westchester University Foundation, responsible for over $50 million in fundraising and leading a $200 million revitalization project of the student residence halls. Rich has also been General Manager of the Newcastle County Department of Special Services, where he supervised a staff of over 450 and managed an annual operating and capital budget exceeding $100 million. He has served as the Associate Dean of Alumni and Development at Widener University School of Law and has been a former YMCA Executive Director and Director of Development for the YMCA in both Maryland and Delaware. He received a BA in Criminal Justice and a Master's in Public Administration from the University of Delaware. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Rich Praswara.
What Joe really should say is Rich really can't keep a job, can he? So it's interesting that through your lifetime you pick up experiences and skills, and every once in a while they come into a perfect match. And I feel like that's what happened when I got to Woodlawn Trustees. Philanthropic, real estate development, affordable housing, and I've been there 5 years, and frankly I love getting up every morning and coming to work. It's hard work. Not that the work I'm doing is hard per se, but dealing with the issues. I was talking to Kevin and Sheila this morning about homelessness and how that's such a problem. We're the step above that. But we'll talk about that, and I'm happy to answer questions. But I want to give you the story of Woodlawn Trustees. It's fascinating, and I hope you'll enjoy what I have to share. So Woodlawn's been around for 100 years. William Bancroft founded the organization to create housing for his workers, frankly. Massive building down on the Brandywine, essentially a peer of the DuPont family in the late 1800s. And we started building the Flats neighborhood in 1903, 1904. That's how far back it goes. And his brother, Samuel, was really the founder of the Delaware Art Museum. And so quietly, these 2 brothers have had a pretty dramatic impact on Wilmington. There are 3 organizations I'm going to talk about: Woodlawn Trustees, and then 2 daughter organizations that it created called the Todd Morton Foundation and the Rockford Woodlawn Fund. So William Bancroft, he also was famous for putting the parks together in Wilmington. That's why Bancroft Parkway exists, was to recognize him for his work. So, but the family, very involved in cotton, and they didn't weave fabric, they coated it. So if you had draperies, tablecloths, dresses, we were the biggest sponsor of the Miss America pageant until like 1950. And I've asked us to redo that, to come back as a sponsor, but because all the ladies were wearing the fabrics were treated with Bancroft Mills treatments. This is the factory in 1920s. Massive. It's like having the General Motors plant right on the river. So hundreds of people working there. They built their own railroads to get stuff across the river. So very interesting, and there was nowhere to live. So he went to the edge of Wilmington and built the Flats. What have we done? We're very quiet. In fact, I would say up until 5 or 10 years ago, we were relatively secretive. Quaker founded. We felt that people didn't need to know what we were doing, just quietly do things in our community. So we've built 450 rental houses in the Flats. We helped create Brandywine Creek State Park through a series of donations and sales and matching. We sold land to create the Delaware Historic Park up in the valley. Most people don't realize Woodlawn Trustees owned almost all the land from I-95 to the Pennsylvania side on the Sharpley side of Concord Pike at one point or another. And over 100 years, we developed, sold all those pieces. So a much bigger impact than you might realize. At the same time, because housing was not integrated at that time, Mrs. Bancroft felt that we needed to serve the African American community, and she started another company and bought houses on the east side of Wilmington. So today, besides Wilmington Housing Authority, we're the largest landlord on the east side of Wilmington. So my business travel, when I worked at Westchester, I was flying around the country visiting alumni. My business travel now is from Bancroft Parkway to 4th Street, Bancroft Parkway to 4th Street. I rack up 4-mile trips every day. So, the figure that's staggering to us is I sat down one time, we like to count things. You know, how many meals did Meals on Wheels serve? How many backpacks did the food bank give away? I calculated with 2 people in every apartment, since we started doing affordable housing, we've provided 25 million nights of safe, affordable housing through Woodlawn, through all the different properties that we've done. It's a staggering amount. Besides affordable housing, we do preservation. So Bancroft had a real concern for open space. So he established the Wilmington's Parks Commission. There were no parks, there was no department, and he personally put together, like for example, Rockford Park, Judy Johnson, Kosciuszko. We have all the letters of him reaching out to Joe Setting to buy his house to make it Rockford Park. And he felt, much like they were doing in Central Park in New York, you had to have open space in the city. And so Wilmington was so grateful they named him the first Parks Commissioner. And then he would have been mortified that they named a school after him, because Bancroft School was named for him, for all his achievements and contributions to Wilmington. So, Brandywine Creek State Park is obviously the jewel, one of the things we're very proud of. It started in the 80s. We did this with Delaware Nature Society, frankly. And some of the land we sold and some we gave because they had federal grant, and so our land was used as a match. And at the end, we helped create an endowment at the Delaware Community Foundation to support Brandywine Creek State Park, which now has over $2 million in it. And it's just beautiful. I mean, how can you not appreciate this as a major achievement? First State National Monument is one of those survival preservation issues. Frankly, folks, Woodlawn trustees almost went bankrupt because we had so much land and we couldn't afford it. Woodlawn is not a tax-exempt organization, it's a for-profit organization, although it operates like a nonprofit. So we're paying taxes on all this land in the valley that we can't do it or we don't do anything with. And at that time, Carper, as you know, really wanted a national park in Delaware. So the leadership at that time got together and said, you know what, here is an excellent opportunity for us. So Woodlawn created another entity called Rockford Woodlawn Fund. That organization was given the land, they sold it, and now there's a principal in that foundation that supports affordable housing and parks in Wilmington, and that continues. But if you haven't been out there, it's a beautiful asset. They're building a visitor center this year. I know Josh is working on that. They're putting bathrooms down at Thompson's Bridge, which probably are underway right now. So people drive, how far do you think people come to the Brandywine River? Throw out a driving distance or time. 2 hours. People drive 2 hours to come down to Thompson's Bridge and Smith's Bridge and spend the day there. It is amazing. Tags from Jersey, from New York. So you can ride, you can hike through there, you can ride your bike, and you can horseback ride. And our land is connected now with Greenogue. So it's Greenogue, the national park, and Woodlawn's property. And over the next couple years, you'll see a unified trail network with names so that you'll know where you are. So I also want to tell you, I took a horseback ride through our property, and I was probably 10 minutes into the ride, and then I couldn't hear anything. I felt like it was 1790, and I'm taking this picture, but I'm crossing that creek on horseback. Like, people have got to realize, right in the heart of this urban area, it's peaceful. And that's something that was really important to Mr. Bancroft and the succeeding trustees. So we helped the community. We donated the bridge when they built the Woodlawn Library. We helped revitalize Woodlawn Park over on 4th Street. This is what the flats look like. We have some really funny pictures. Women up on the 3rd floor hanging laundry, no guardrails. You know, you just went up and hung your laundry. And, but I can't tell you how many people I've run into in my 5 years at Woodlawn whose family members or parents lived in the flats. It really was working class housing. It's hard to maintain that. You can see we're rebuilding it. It's about a $120 million effort to rebuild that. But the hardest part is when we rebuild it, we have to do it in phases, one, because of money, but we have to relocate people. How many of you know where there's 20 vacant apartments right now for $800? So it's as much of a headache to find where we're going to put people while we do this. Right now on 4th Street, we're building the Flats Phase 5, which is a senior-only unit, 62 units for 62 and older, and we have a HUD 202, which means those people only have to pay a third of their income. So we're going to move some of the folks from the flats into this building, and their rent's going to go from $900 to $350. And then that'll help us demolish them so we can build the next phase. So this is what the flats looks like, and each of the phases is a different color. So you can see we're just kind of marching through the neighborhood, and it's about $17 million for each of those colored squares is roughly the cost to do that. And I got to give a shout out to Larry DeSabatino. He's been our partner through all this, just has done a great job. Really, our mission is orderly planned development. We can do whatever we want. We can do middle-class housing, market-rate housing, affordable housing, preserve land, do commercial. We own the Kohl's Pad, the Delaware Corporate Center. That's all our stuff. Bancroft was a Quaker, and he didn't leave us an endowment. He left us a business plan. He said, folks, I'm giving you property. The affordable housing makes money. You acquire more property. You can develop it for commercial. You can preserve it. He has a letter that he left for the board in 1919 that said, 202 is going to be a commercial corridor between here and Philadelphia. Let's preserve everything that we can down to the river. That's the gem. But along 202, so, you know, the last big transaction we did was with Wilmington University. So Allapocus, Sharpley, Eden Ridge, Tavistock, hardly affordable neighborhoods. But that's within our mission, is do orderly planned development. You need both affordable housing and market rate housing to have a good community. DuPont Country Club, the YMCA, the churches all along 202, all of that was originally our property. And those are amenities that we want in our community. So ground leases along Concord Pike. And then East Side. East Side's a very interesting endeavor. So we began in the 30s. His wife Emma begins buying these little houses. And if you've been over on the East Side, you can tell there's problems. There's a lot of dilapidated, boarded up homes. And about 4 years ago, our boards, all three entities' boards met and said, we are committed to housing and we're committed to the East Side. So Rich, get started. So luckily, ARPA was happening at that time, and we were able to work with the city and the state and bring in a lot of ARPA dollars to create new housing. So this is what Bennett Street looked like in 2022, just block after block of boarded up houses. And if you peel the board back or go in the back, there's people that are squatting in there. So a lot of crime, a lot of other things. So this is a typical interior of a unit that we get. So we do a lot of gut rehabs. So that's a house on the left, and then this is a completed project on the right. Interestingly, we work with the city. I don't know if any of you know Bob Weir, who works real estate and housing. He put together some efforts to put together developers like us with minority contractors. So we've done probably 30 renovated homes, all of which have been done with minority contractors. We put $5 million into the coffers of small black businesses. And these are guys that before this job were in a truck. And when we said you have to have a business license in Wilmington, they're like, you, what? That's crazy. But they were going around doing renovations, but the next level, and now we've got one guy that's done 14 homes for us. Another company's getting $1 million projects. These people know how to do the work, but nobody has ever trained them on the business side of it. And we're like, we'll help you get workman's comp, we'll help you get general liability, we'll help you with the licenses, and they're rising up. Their prices are rising up too, but that's fine. So this was Bennett Street in 2023, and this is Bennett Street in 2025. Working with the land bank, we acquired an entire block We still had to buy a few people out. We leveled the block, and instead of a house, there were 15 houses on each side of the street, narrow. A lot of the houses on the east side are 12, 15, 18 feet wide. We put 10 back on each side. And these are selling right now for $229,000, and people have to make 80% of AMI or lower. So these are your employees. We have people that are living here that are buying, that work at the Christina School District, WSFS Bank, the Post Office, Christiana Health Systems. They're making $60,000 a year, and you can't get an entry home in Union Park Gardens for that. You can't buy in McDaniel Heights up on 202 for that. But for $1,000 down, you can get a new house, and we can start to build wealth up in that level of the community. So this is what the houses look like inside. So the two new entities are the Rockford Woodlawn Fund, so that private foundation holds the sale from the country lands for the national park, and then the Todd Morton Foundation was created. Any of you know of low-income housing tax credits? You ever heard that term? Only a nonprofit can apply for low-income housing tax credits. That's the #1 vehicle for redevelopment of affordable housing. So the Todd Morton Foundation goes and applies for LIHTC credits, and Woodlawn gives them the property or sells them the property block by block. So the flats are transferring from ownership from Woodlawn to Todd Morton over a 10, 15-year period. And so they're separate. I have 3 boards, each separate company. They're legally independent from each other. And Mike asked, or Joe asked me a question, are there any Bancrofts still left? We have 5 Bancroft family members among the 3 boards. The family really takes it seriously, what their great-grandfather did. 2 in England, 2 in Canada, upstate New York, and they come in for board meetings. Rockford Woodlawn, what do we give money to? So it's primarily for affordable housing. The primary beneficiary is the Todd Morton Foundation, so they can do the flats. So I have the unique opportunity if Thayer says to me, hey Rich, we'll give you a grant from Longwood, but it's a matching grant, I have a foundation that's ready to do that. So that really, you know what, it keeps the ball rolling. Because when, as Kevin knows, when you have to find fresh money for each project, it's like, here we go again. But because we created that, it's a big help, and it enables us, we know we're going to keep building. We know we're going to keep doing affordable housing. But we've made grants to all those organizations as part of the Rockford Woodlawn disbursements, and more will be coming in the future. We'll have that fund is going to have a bigger and bigger impact. So Todd Morton was set up to do the flats. Woodlawn donated the property. Rockford Woodlawn has contributed in cash over $7 million, because when you do LIHTC, you have gap funding that you have to fill. So Delaware State Housing Authority, Longwood Foundation, Crystal, Laffey McHugh, Marmount, all those help fill that gap. So phase 5 will open in this coming summer 26, and we hope to start beginning phase 6 in the late summer, early fall. We're going to do something different with the rest of the flats. We're changing the floor plan. We're going to build 1-bedroom apartments and studios on the first floor that are handicapped accessible, and then 2-bedroom apartments on the top. We want to put a unit online, whether it's the studio or the 1-bedroom, that's about $800. Because there's the average Social Security check in Delaware is like $1,500. If you're, I mean, even our 2-bedroom stuff on the east side is $1,200 and $1,300. So we have to be able to, as a community, provide housing that people can pay for with the retirement that they have. So we're going to, that's our floor plan going forward. And then what do we have left? We still have 300 plus acres up along 202, literally from the Pennsylvania line to behind the Coles. And right now there's about 20 miles of trails through there, and we're looking at a way to, in Woodlawn's fashion, what's the best way to use this land? Not necessarily for ourselves, because I could sell it to Joe Setting this morning for $40 million, and that would really be nice. But is that what the community wants? Do you want, 200 houses right at the top of Thompson's Bridge Road? We might, or do we want to protect that? So we're going to be talking to the Open Space Council in Newcastle County and the state to really look to see which makes sense to preserve and which makes sense to develop. Because we are not only one of those. We are not only preservation, we are not only affordable housing, and we are not only commercial development. We are about orderly development. Thoughtful development was Bancroft's phrase. Look at what's best for our community. Questions?
Hey Rich, that was an excellent presentation.
Thanks.
Thank you, I learned so much. I've recently been watching cottage ordinances.
What ordinances?
Cottage.
Oh, cottage, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been working with a group that's advocating for a new cottage ordinance in the downstate town of Georgetown. And through that process, I learned that Wilmington recently approved a cottage ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm sure you know,
Yeah.
this is a new type of subdevelopment in which very small, typically 800, no larger than 800 square feet, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom homes constructed, again, to support low and middle income people, whether they're either rented by the owner of the development or sold, pretty simple. Does your organisation have a view on cottage style developments, especially given you've got all of this greenfields opportunity here in upper northern Delaware?
Some people worry about their staff on Amazon all day. I'm on tiny home houses looking at floor plans. Because I really do think, right now, all the land we own in the valley is zoned suburban estate. 2-acre lot, boom, septic sewer, done. But I think that there could be an opportunity to look at those 800, 900, 1,000 foot square foot houses with 2 bedrooms. And now I don't like tiny homes where they come in and they're on a trailer bed. What we would be interested in is building something that's going to last, because Woodlawn's always in it for the long game. You know, we built those flats out of brick because we're going to own them 50 years from now. So I think as we look at what we would do with smaller homes, that niche is there. But here's the thing that we know we have to do. I can't do it in the typical commercial fashion. I can't have debt on it, because as soon as I have debt on it, you're paying $1,800. So Todd Morden, as a 501c3, will be the one to do that. And the way to do it is to find the funding to be able to say to someone, I can charge you $800 or $900. But I went to a housing meeting this summer, and we looked at the chart of aging Delaware. And then we looked at the chart of median Social Security checks, and we're like, this doesn't work. This falls apart. So all options are open as far as we're concerned. And we also look at infill on lots too. I'd love to find a product that can be pre-made that looks urban, because the land bank has, 100 vacant lots. We have 20. But you got to be able to put something in there that you can do. Our break-even point is once it costs more than $200,000 to renovate, we're walking away from it. Because in a rental market, it will never pay itself back. So, if someone says, well, I could do prefab construction and drop it on there for $270, and I've got houses for sale for $229, and it is hard to get a qualified buyer because their credit scores are low. They have a good job, they can pay it, but they can't qualify for the loan. So if everything, and it cost me $300,000 to build that. So every home that's built needs a $100,000 subsidy. So we have to find something that's cheaper, durable, and we have to find the land that allows that. So I think you're going to see that start to come out. Yeah. Yes.
First, I wanted to say thank you. You pulled the word out of my mouth that I was going to use, which is thoughtful, both from a historical perspective and knowing what I know about Mr. Bancroft. I think you would love everything that you're doing. And selfishly, I get to enjoy things like Brandywine Creek State
Good.
right down the road, and I face beautiful woods and open spaces in my neighborhood, which was thoughtfully designed. And all of it's just so lovely. My question was, I'm hoping you could elaborate on who is included in your East Side Coalition, because we have, as a Rotary Club, community partners and sort of vested interest on that side. So can you give us a little more detail?
Well, I'd say the East Side's in a little bit of flux, because not flux negative, but flux positive. Kevin and several other organizations, the churches over there spent, was it all of last year or the year before, putting together a new East Side development plan, which really has some interesting concepts for new businesses down closer to the train area, and has targets to redevelop property. And so everybody that's involved on that side meets roughly quarterly. The land bank, us, Habitat, private developers who've gone through the Jumpstart, Scenair, we're all meeting together regularly to make, what are you doing, what are we doing, what can we do together? There's also a problem, and I'm suggesting that we tackle it, which is everybody in Delaware is terrified of eminent domain. Wilmington has 1,000 vacant houses. Dover has hundreds of vacant properties. Other cities and municipalities like Lancaster, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Washington have devised a solution to take that property from someone who's not putting it into play. I really think that people who have abandoned properties, like you saw, are committing a criminal economic act against their neighbors. They are ripping down the wealth of the neighbor to the left and the right and the person across the street. I don't know why we care, and this may sound pretty cruel, I don't know why we care about them. They're not living in the house, they're not voters, they're not producing in our economy, and they're literally hurting the people next door to them. They're allowing a place for criminal activity to occur, and we're terrified, and we talk ourselves into this, well, we're going to take a grandmother's home and throw her on the street. No, you're not. All these other municipalities have come up with a definition of what a blighted property is, and they're developing hundreds of vacant, boarded-up properties. But in Delaware, we've talked ourselves out of that. There are times that I'm very frustrated living and working here because we just don't do the things that other places are doing. I don't know why. We're just not, I'm not even going to use the word aggressive. Let's just take practices that are successful elsewhere and adopt them here. I think there's a piece, like for that a cottage, I would much rather develop a previously built-on piece of ground rather than take virgin soil and put new houses on it. It's got a street, it's got a water line, it's got electric, and we're leaving open space available for other things. Let's reuse the ground that has already been taken from the green space and reuse it. And it's cheaper. It's cheaper to do that than it is to take a virgin piece of property and even put a small house on it. So it'll be less impactful. I'd much rather preserve space that we have and do 80 houses in the city than 80 houses on Thompson's Bridge Road. That's the smart play. It is. So, sorry, I'm really getting off now. Okay.
Rich, I'm fascinated by Mr. Bancroft's vision to think about the concept of a need for open space in the future. When he made those decisions, it wasn't a congested, urbanized area that we have now. Could you maybe speak a little to him as a visionary?
He, we have a lot of his writings. Woodlawn and our company kept a lot of his stuff. And it is interesting that he felt very strongly that things needed to be efficient. And you needed to have cities that had compressed housing. Everything couldn't be suburbia. And there wasn't as much suburbia then. And he saw a simplicity in that type of living. You have a nice house, and if you look at the old flats, they have the little narrow closet where you can hang your coveralls up. There wasn't anything flashy, but it was dependable. And I think what he looked at the open space was, back in that time, several industrialists in England and in America were saying we need to build communities. And he was really of the mindset that we need to build green space for people that is healthy for them. It is good. You look at Sharpley, drive through Sharpley and look how much money Woodlawn gave away with all that open space. You'd never see that now. All those areas would have housing on it. But his viewpoint was that's going to keep the community happy, healthy. They need a place to recreate. You need a place to go outside with your dog, to throw your ball with your kid. And that 1919 letter that he wrote is in our board orientation. Every new board member reads his original writing. I've worked at a lot of nonprofits. We've never looked at a document more than 5 years old. But, and that sense of what we're supposed to be doing is presented to each new board member. Like, this is your job. You've got to carry this on, carry that vision. But one board member challenged me. He said, Rich, there's no parks on the east side. When we did Bennett Street, Woodlawn and Todd Morton built a private park for the neighborhood. 760 Spruce Street, if you drive down there, there's a gated park. It has a time lock gate on it, and it is for Bennett Street and Spruce Street. For all that, Kevin's building 15, 20 houses there. They all are getting the combination. We had 70 kids show up the other day, playing chess on the chess table, and the parents like, thank you for putting a lock on it. They were thrilled. It's just like a park in England or New York. So,
Rich, I'm John Morton. To what extent are you using land leases and income from land leases to support your organizations?
Probably Woodlawn's the only one that has land leases. It's probably a third of our budget. So, you know, for the corporate leases. Yeah. Are you giving me the yank? Is that enough time? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Really fascinating. Actually, I get kind of a question. If you could just maybe expand a little bit on, you talk, it's a for-profit company, but you operate like a nonprofit, were your words. How do you reconcile that? Like, is it truly like profit doesn't matter at all? Or just...
To a group of businessmen, here's the real story. Woodlawn had its nonprofit status taken from it when it was doing sharply. The IRS came in and said, that's not affordable housing. And Woodlawn went, we don't care. We're going to operate the same way. So literally, the board is not interested in making a profit. What they're interested in is making progress. So whatever proceeds we get is going back into affordable housing. And so they generally feel like you can be a for-profit company and you don't have to make a profit. Yeah. We used to have shareholders. Literally, we're shareholders of Woodlawn. And they took all that back and bought them out like in 1930 when they went to they were one of the first nonprofits when the IRS code came out. But the viewpoint was, we're a for-profit company in operational legal sense only. Other than that, we're a nonprofit and we're about community good. Every once in a while it's a little quirky, like I can't apply for funding or this or that, but Todd Morton gives us the ability to do that. So I just bounce between them.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification. That's helpful context. For me at least, anyways. Well, thank you for being here, and as an expression of our thanks, we're going to be donating a book with your name on it to one of our partner organizations. We partner with several different early education centers here in Wilmington, Latin American Community Center, St. Michael's, a couple others, and so we do that every week, and so thanks again for being here. Next week coming up, we've got a really fascinating conversation. I hope you'll make it out. It's going to be a really interesting conversation with a number of business leaders, sponsored and led by Madeline from Rodell. I think it's going to be really interesting, so come out and don't miss it. With that, take care of yourself, and if you can, someone else too.